Hello everybody, welcome to the Boys Club. I'm Holly Payne.
And I'm Clarke Wolfe.
And welcome to True Detective Perspective. We're going to be talking about episode 3 today. And Clarke, what were your thoughts on episode 3?
I thought that episode 3 was very interesting. It was slow. This one felt the most slow to me, even though we got some major action, even though we watched Woody Harrelson's Martin Hart kind of
beat the crap out of...
Yeah, he kind of went off the deep end there. So that was a little intense. And I guess we were introduced to a bit more social interaction in this episode when they go to the town dance or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have the stuff at the church, at the tent revival.
Right. Which actually I thought was really fun. I really enjoyed that. And it was kind of a long scene, but I can't remember that actor's name right now. He's in everything right now. The guy who played the preacher.
Yeah, I don't know his name.
He's in American Hustle. He's been in so many things lately, and I love him. But I really liked that scene, and I think it was a little bit of a detour. We meet the guy, the eunuch.
Yes.
And
what's with HBO and eunuchs?
Let's talk about that for a minute.
Lots of eunuchs on HBO. I'm just saying. I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's true.
Continue.
They're always fascinating characters, though.
Yes.
So let's see. So yeah, we started with the revival. We get to know the preacher a little bit. He tells us that they were in Eunice, I think. Speaking of Eunice. And that's where they saw Dora Lang.
With the tall man.
Which, as far as we know right now,
we don't know who that is.
But those two women mentioned a guy with a shiny jaw.
Yes.
And then they bring in this guy who's got burns on his face.
Yes, that's right.
And McConaughey starts talking to him in religious overtones.
He becomes a preacher almost.
He does.
Kind of, yeah. Getting inside his head.
Yeah.
I also thought that it was really, I think we got some major seed planting when he said to the two police officers in present day in regards to that, it doesn't take me 10 minutes to know whether they did it or not.
Oh, man, that was a diss.
And he goes, and how long does it take you guys? But here's the thing. I think that that's going to come back later.
How so? Specifically.
Should I tell them my theory?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, real fast.
Oh, yeah, we might want to say, you might want to pause this and come back.
So, if you are caught up on True Detective, great, keep watching. We're at episode 3 by now. If you are not, you might want to come back to us later. We'll be here. And also, if you don't want any speculation, because like we said in our premiere episode, we don't know anything.
No.
We don't have any sort of screener.
We're guessing as much as
Exactly.
you are.
We're just fans of the show. We don't have any sort of insight into where this is going. We have no advanced copies of anything. I'm going to throw out a theory. I'm very convinced of it as of now. But
I am not,
Holly is not. But as soon as I become not convinced of it anymore, I will definitely tell you guys. So here we go. Are you ready? I think that Martin Hart, Woody Harrelson, is our main man. I think he's our bad guy. In some way, shape, or form. I'm actually, Holly doesn't think so. I strongly, upon second viewing of episode 2, think that he is our guy. And I also think that we are headed to a showdown between McConaughey and...
I think we've known that, I think, since day one.
But I think that and you know, we might be going in the direction of McConaughey's character knows that Martin.
Right.
Knows that Martin's involved.
Going with your theory,
yes.
That is. Now, so elaborate on that a little bit. What have you seen so far? What's your evidence?
Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, if you go back to episode 2, you will notice that Matthew McConaughey's character, and I watched episode 2 twice, because I did not guess this the first time around. His character, at every single turn, so McConaughey is pushing. He is drilling this case home. He's trying to follow every lead. He's trying to investigate every nook, every cranny. And at every turn, literally every turn, Martin Hart tells him a reason why he's wrong.
Yeah. Now, see, I think that could be a number of other reasons, but
Yes. So, but here's another more specific example of that. Every time McConaughey says, "Let's go investigate this church. Let's go look for this church. Let's go find this church." Woody Harrelson's character says, "No, we're going to look at the Johns today. We're going to do something else today." Essentially, in my mind, buying himself time.
Okay. Now, see, my thinking on that is that he's just a by-the-books cop who has been doing it this way his whole life.
Sure.
And that's how he's operated in this, small town Louisiana police department. And the new guy is Cole, who has a completely weird and different method than him.
Right.
And I think he's threatened by him for a number of reasons. I think he's threatened by him because he's not a personality he's ever met in his life. He's also attractive. He's also around the same age group, and he's got theories that he's dedicated and committed on a level, and also unhindered by the fact that he has no family. He has no one who's relying on him. And we hear Martin say, even in this episode again, he said something about the futility of responsibility. He says something about he said, "Do you know what it's like?" He's talking to the two cops that are interrogating him, and he says, I don't know if you know what it's like to be a father, but it's accountability. It's like having to be accountable and have this overwhelming responsibility." And eventually he says, there's a futility to responsibility. And I think there's this overwhelming burden that he feels, which is why he's going out and drinking, which is why he's going out and having these affairs. I think he's just a really fallible man who is able to allow himself a lot of latitude and forgiveness, as they say, because he doesn't have too much guilt at this point.
Yeah, I see his motivations as a bit more sinister, to be honest. I do. I see the, I think episode 2 is
more than just a temper, you think?
Oh, yes.
More than just an alcohol problem.
Oh, yes. I think that these are symptoms, like pushing through. For instance, one of the things I mentioned in our first episode was Matthew McConaughey seems to be playing the oddball, and how I thought that it was a little strange given Woody Harrelson being there, and Woody Harrelson's the straight man. And that to me was a little strange. Why would Woody Harrelson kind of choose to play the straight man when these two parts are on the table? Now, first of all, as we've gotten to know these characters a little bit more, Woody Harrelson is less of a straight man, but
I don't see him as a straight man.
Privately, he's less of a straight man, because when it comes to the two of them, if you put Martin Hart and Rust Cole standing next to each other, Martin is definitely the straight man. As the way the police force sees him, as the way people
he's not the
see
wild
him.
card.
No. So I think that
only in private is he the
exactly, and I think that we are going to come to find out that he is a bit more of a wild card than we had initially been led to believe. I also think that he appears in his persona, in his acting, in his characterization, very stuffed into this family man role. He seems very uncomfortable in it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, to me, that is somebody who is keeping up appearances, but has a much darker
I see that too, but I see that being a metaphor for a lot of men and a lot of marriages. And I don't think that it necessarily means that even though he's got these violent tendencies, there's something about him having ownership, for example, with his mistress. He's furious that he can't control that situation.
Right, that's what we see in episode 3, a violent altercation.
Yeah, and but I think that kind of goes with the territory. He can't control that situation. He can't control his home life. He's kind of a man out of control.
Right, and a lot of murderers.
That's true, but so are a lot of men, just in general. So are a lot of people, not just men, but so are a lot of people who are contained by their circumstances, or so they feel. Another reason why I don't think Martin is the killer is just because he's so careless, completely careless in his dealing with this affair, dealing with his outside his home life and outside his work life, with the affair, with approaching this new boyfriend of his mistress, is pretty out there.
Now, here's my question. Do you think he's really careless? Because to me, I think
running over a children's bicycle, like, to get to and then slamming into the door, I think that's
No, what I'm
careless.
saying is I think that the culture and the situation allows for him to behave that way. Like, I don't think that, because his wife knows. She just won't say it. And
she's trying to get him to say
exactly.
it, and he won't say it.
Right, because he's going to keep lying. Of course he is. So if your wife's not going to call you out, and if everybody in the town knows you're having an affair, I don't see him going over there and beating up the mistress's boyfriend as careless. I see that as who the heck is going to tell him not to?
Well, that's the other thing too. That's him showing the badge. That's, I have power here. Here's my control. It's in the form of a badge. Here's my, this is how much I can lord it over you. I don't care what the repercussions are. I'm police.
Right.
And I just feel like that's something that he is. I mean, he's telling people he's not drinking, and then he's drinking a lot, and there's a lot of imbalance there. But I think it's a man out of control. I don't think it necessarily points to him being a methodical, ritualistic murderer.
Now, here's another thing that's interesting, is that after every heated scene, we see a lot of Martin walking, getting into something, and then going somewhere. We don't know where. Like, for instance, when he leaves his mistress's house after beating up her boyfriend, he goes someplace and rolls into work. They say something like, is that 3 days in a row? We don't know where he was during that entire period of time, and he looked pretty angry.
He looked pretty hungover.
When he left.
Oh, okay.
When he left. He looked like he was going somewhere and it wasn't to go to bed.
Sorry.
Kitty! Our production assistant is... Kitty, no.
Tiger.
So anyway, okay, so we'll see about Martin Hart. Now, let's talk a little bit about Ledoux.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ledoux.
Well, we don't know much about Ledoux yet.
We don't.
We know that he spent time with Charlie Lang.
Yes, who's Dora, the victim's husband, in prison.
Who
so
talked
they were both in
about
prison together.
A king. Charlie Lang talked about a king. He's like, she kept going on about a king. And finding her king. So I was going to throw it to you since you did some research on this.
Yes, so I wrote an article for Nerdist.com that was published this weekend. We'll put the link down in the show notes below so you guys can check it out if you want to. Okay, so the Yellow King, and Holly actually pointed this out to me. She sent me this link and I started reading and then I pushed it a little bit further, but this was a great catch that a lot of people on the internet did see.
It wasn't widespread.
It wasn't widespread.
There's a Lovecraft connection.
Well,
and at this point, people probably know a little bit about this, but it's tenuous at best at this point.
Yeah, because we're so early on.
Yeah.
This is driving me crazy.
Yeah.
That this is so unfolding so slow. But so here's the deal. So the Yellow King, the words "the Yellow King" were written in Dora's diary or in Dora's notebook. And the Yellow King, and also there were stanzas, there were lines written, and those stanzas and the reference to the Yellow King are from a collection of short stories written by Robert W. Chambers in the late 1800s. This anthology, The Yellow King, is the first 4 stories are horror short stories, and basically all of the characters that read this play within these short stories called The Yellow King either go insane, they die, they see visions. It doesn't end well. Is for people who have crossed the path of the Yellow King. In the first short story, actually, it has almost a cult-like hold on people.
Okay.
And people, our narrator is actually recruiting people to read the Yellow King.
Which is a parallel.
Exactly.
A direct parallel, I think, in the second episode.
Another very interesting parallel is that our narrator in the first short story, in the anthology, mentions that he was a soldier. He was thrown from his horse. He got a head injury. He never saw the world the same again.
Okay.
He had been institutionalized. So we're seeing a lot of parallels, especially in this first short story, between Rush Cole and our unreliable narrator.
Okay.
To be fair, the narrator in in the short story is an unreliable narrator.
Oh, okay.
So we don't know. I mean, we don't know what that means necessarily. But
Right.
this collection of short stories had a huge impact on a lot of horror figures throughout the 1900s and even today, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was H.P. Lovecraft. So basically, it's all very loosely tied, but a lot of the people who like certain words and certain locations that are mentioned in the Yellow King are also tied in to these stories about Cthulhu. You could also say that McConaughey's character is very Lovecraftian in the way he sees the world and those kinds of things.
From what I understand, it was an intentional. It was intentional, obviously, by the writers.
Oh,
to
it would have to
that.
be.
Yeah.
I mean, the Yellow King is such a specific reference that I don't see how it would not be intentional.
Right. But again, how it's going to play out, we have no idea.
That's the other thing. I mean, you know, there are a lot of religious implications in the short stories and ones in specific. So, you know, we don't know because we don't have the whole series to kind of look at, but it does not bode well for people who encounter the Yellow King.
Right. Okay, so I have a question for you.
Yes.
So the final freeze frame we see, which is possibly Reginald Ledoux. We don't know
we don't
for
know.
sure. Who do you think that is, and what do you think that represents, and what do you think's going on there?
Well, here's the thing that's very interesting to me, and perhaps I'm reading too much into this from a couple of episodes earlier, but I'm under the impression that the person that they caught for these murders, or for Dora Lang's murder, if we're just have that one victim as of now, is not the right person.
Yeah.
So if we're looking into Reginald Ledoux, and that is in fact who we saw, you know, I don't know what that means. I personally believe that what we're going to come to find out, regardless of who the killer is that there are a lot of really screwed up people out there.
Yeah, you and I were talking about this off camera,
right?
But yeah, it's like Southern Gothic, creepy. It's a strange, swampy,
and you know, you never
place.
know who you're living next to.
Yeah,
you never know what people are doing in the privacy of their own homes.
Yeah, and as I mentioned to you, there's already been animal sacrifices. There's already been we know there's weird stuff going on in this place anyway. That is above and beyond the ritualistic murder that we've seen.
And
so
I think
far.
that's a big parallel with all of the characters. Is quite frankly, you know, you see a guy like Rust Cole when he's out in the field, he's put together. He's well dressed. I mean, maybe not behaviorally, but he looks good. He looks like a normal-ish person. He's a hard worker. And then you go into his house. He has no furniture. He's got photos everywhere of dead bodies.
I was going to say it looks like an Urban Outfitters apartment.
It's, yeah, lots of horns and lots of weird things. But meanwhile, you look at somebody like Martin Hart, who is always dressed. He's got the beautiful wife. He's got the two beautiful girls. And his home life, his private life behind closed doors is a complete mess. So I think that basically, regardless of what the mystery ends up being, the big theme of this show is you never know what people are doing when you know the eyes aren't on them, essentially.
Yeah, we still don't know enough about any one of those characters. The veil has not been lifted on anyone yet.
And I will say, too, in terms of if we see Reginald Ledoux at the end and that freeze frame, which was such an awesome, weird choice, by the way.
The freeze frame?
To just freeze frame.
Yeah.
That was like, and they were just going to hold on it. I
didn't know when I was watching it first. I was like, did it just freeze frame?
It's so
weird.
Yeah. And
it's
kind of awesome. It was super creepy.
Yeah.
But if you want to maybe push the connection of Lovecraft a little bit more, I mean, it was a gas mask, but almost a tentacle, or this, like, creature.
That's
Look
our
at our production assistant. Tiger, the production assistant. But no, I mean, if you want to talk about these creatures and these forms and these tentacles and these things, I mean, look at this man. This doesn't look like a human. This looks like something that has this protruding nose. Exactly. So
a little bit of Cthulhu going
there's
on.
There's a lot there. There's definitely a lot there. So, Holly, any final thoughts?
Boy, well, we were both wrong. We didn't see more bodies this week. We thought we were going to see more bodies.
See, I didn't see the tease, because I'm only watching on HBO Go, and so I haven't seen any of the teases.
Right. Well, no, I haven't seen any tease for next week. But I mean, last week we were predicting we were going to see more bodies this week.
Oh, right. Yes.
And we didn't see any more. We saw them in photographs, but we didn't actually see any more bodies.
I think we're going to a big... I think it's going to be a big set piece.
Yeah.
You know, like what we were talking about last week with the thing in the woods.
Yeah.
We don't know what that is yet.
Right.
I think it's going to be a huge it's all gonna ride on one thing.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe the sacrifice will be Michelle Monaghan. Or maybe it'll be his girlfriend.
It's going to be far more theatrical because of what they've already established.
Absolutely.
This was just practice. Dora Lang was just practice.
This is hard. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Watching this show week to week and not being able to sit down and watch the entire series has been really challenging. Because I think this is a show that you are going to, as soon as the end credits of the last episode roll, you are going to say, "Oh my gosh, I missed so much,"
and then you're going to want to
and
go
you have
back
to go back and watch all
thing.
of it again. Yeah. And part of me, is really having a very difficult time with this viewing experience because it is such a slow burn. But if you watched it all back to back to back, it would be kaboom.
Yeah, no, you'd be absorbing a heck of a lot more. But as far as next week is concerned, I really don't know.
I don't know either.
I have no idea what's going to happen.
Maybe more with Reginald Ledoux.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that, I don't know, we'll find out. He's certainly, they creeped us the heck out with that last freeze frame.
He's definitely creepy. Yeah, pretty creepy.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. We did a little recap from episode 2 that we missed the first time around, but I think that's good.
Yeah.
We're all putting things together.
Sorry for the length of the episode this time.
That's okay, though. You guys can, whatever. If you want to watch it, watch it. Okay. So thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be sure to leave comments. We would seriously want to know, do you think I'm absolutely crazy?
Do you think she's crazy? Because I think she's a little crazy.
Probably. Everybody does.
I disagree, but we would love to hear your comments.
Yeah, let us know. Follow us on Twitter. Welcome to TBC. I am at Clarke Wolfe, Clarke with an E, Wolfe with an E.
I am at Holly K. Payne.
As you can see on our lovely icons here. And and thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye-bye.